Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Ganesh Kudikala. I'm CTO of Azatech. So, I am also the AWS UG leader for the user group Malta. I welcome everyone who are joining from all over the world. Warm welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining. This is a second DevOps episode that we are going to start today. So we have done a previous episode for the beginner level, which is 100 level episode. So we have done with Prasanjit Singh, and today we are going to do a session on the DevOps episode 2. So today we are going to discuss about the intermediate level, or also whatever we have missed previously on the 100 level also will be included in the session. Also, if you have any questions, you can ask at any time in the chat. So you have a live chat open. So if you are connecting from the YouTube, you can directly ask your question. If you are connected from Facebook or Twitch, whichever the platform you are in, you can ask any questions whenever you need it. Okay, and please be watch the session until the session is completed, because we have this quiz in the end. So if you answer the question, you will be awarded with a prize, so which can be a surprise prize, and that will be shared from AWS user group Malta. So today we have Prasanjit Singh. I welcome Prasanjit Singh today. So I would like to introduce him. I would like to explain him about what is his actually previous background. So Prasanjit Singh is an architect, cloud solutions advocate, DevOps and SRE practice to help the solve engineering problems and the infrastructure modernization and migration. So he is one of the expert in DevOps, automation, and cloud modernization in a cloud technology. So I would like to introduce him, Mr. Prasanjit Singh. Thanks for joining with us today. So we welcome from AWS User Group Malta.
Thank you, Ganesh. Thanks for having me. It's a privilege to join the group and share with you and also learn from you people here.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's really great for us. So we are doing, this is one of the first, I think this is one of the first live stream with you, and
right.
this is episodes of DevOps episodes. I think nobody has done something like this in a user group. So we are doing to help the community, to help them and make them expertise in the DevOps technology. So this is really great for us, and you are donating your technology to the community all over the world is really great for us. And again, I'm really thankful to you for the session today. So I would like to start introducing. So whatever we are going to do, the demo, the session on today. So let me share my presentation. Okay, so this is a DevOps episode 2. So who are joined for the first time from all over the world is the, so it's a DevOps episode 2, means it's a mixture of 100 level and 200 level. So if you miss the first session, you can directly go to the AWS user group meetup group and try to open there is a comment section. You can find the YouTube link. You can directly watch the 100 level stream, whatever happened last week, couple of weeks back. So let me go to the next. Okay, so this is a 200 level session, and with the speaker Mr. Prasanjit Singh, and I also introduce him. So he is one of the expert in the cloud and DevOps technology, who is working for the Stars Play, which is in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. And today our agenda is the session on the DevOps, which can be handled by Prasanjit Singh. Also, we have a quiz, and QA is 24/7. So whenever you need, you can ask the QA. It's open for you. Okay, so now it's over to you, Mr. Prasanjit Singh. You can proceed now.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me again. And it'll be a privilege to share the DevOps. So, let me talk like what we are going to do, and I'll also do a very short recap of what has been already covered. So, hope my screen is visible to everyone. So, what have we done already? In the episode one, we covered DevOps fundamentals. We understood what DevOps is and how it works. It is generally a culture where you prepare for some practices and tools which allow you to deploy and go to market very quickly with your software deployments and applications. So it is done in a particular way. So you create some scripts and pipelines and use some tools to in order to achieve that. And it also helps to minimize errors. It also helps to break the silos or break the distinction between the dev team and the ops team, because normally when these two teams don't work together, the deployments and the productivity of a software company slows down. So DevOps comes here to help with different tool sets in order to streamline these processes. So that's what we discussed. We also discussed a bit about what CI/CD pipeline is. We discussed about containers, like how containers isolate resources and how you can quickly spin up any application. And then we discussed some tools like how on AWS we can do that. And towards the end of the session, you all can follow the previous video as Ganesh shared. It's already there on the AWS user group Malta channel. So watch that one if you missed. So towards the end, we reached about installing Jenkins, and then we were about to create a pipeline. So we'll take it from there and move forward. And we'll also discuss about code pipeline, code build, code deploy. These are all AWS DevOps tools. So these are important because those who are already in the cloud or wanting to move to the cloud, so if you use these practices, it will be easy for you. And why we are doing Jenkins? Because most people who are already starting to do DevOps, they normally use Jenkins the most and easy to understand. So first understand that, get the concepts, then you can move on to AWS and apply those using code pipelines, code build, code deploy. And also we will learn about ECS. So today we'll get some theory about these things and do a practical on Jenkins and pipelines. And in the forthcoming episode, again we will learn some very interesting things like cloud formation, how to do all these things automatically within a few minutes. So you will learn some scripts, and I will also share you that code repository where those scripts are kept, so you can use them to deploy your own thing. And we'll do in the episode 3 we'll do a real project using cloud formation, which will deploy to ECS. So that will cover both episode 1 and 2 again in the episode 3. And we'll also do some monitoring. So that is for the next one. So today, quick recap again. I said like DevOps is a full life cycle investment. It is a team undertaking. It is not for one person or one DevOps engineer to practice DevOps. It will be done by everyone in the office. So because it is a tool or set of practices or a culture that is given to the team, not any one script or something that will be done or applied by a DevOps engineer. It is for everyone to practice that. So that is one thing, and it also enables you to deliver faster. So that was in short what it is. And then in order to do that, we have two things that we follow: CI and CD processes. So CI stands for continuous integration. That means as soon as the code is deployed, so how a code is deployed, developer will write the code on his laptop, he will commit it to a repository like GitHub or Bitbucket or code commit, and so on. So once he commits the code to the repository, there are series of actions that trigger off, like that will trigger off a pipeline in your Jenkins or AWS deployment tools if you are using that. So once that triggers off, it will build the code into an artifact. So for example, if someone is writing code in Java, they will create a jar file or a var file. And if someone is writing in PHP, that does not need any compilation, only the code has to be put in a web server which has PHP. So things like that. If someone is writing code for an Android app, that has to be compiled into a APK file. So when that compilation process happens, that is called the build process. So when the build is complete, that artifact is kept into a artifact repository. And once that repository artifact is stored there, it is versioned, because if something goes wrong, you can go back to the previous version or move back to the next version, and so on. So in order to do that, every artifact that is stored is versioned. So this process of continuously building and storing it as a version and testing is known as continuous integrations, because as soon as the developer commits the code, it triggers all these chain. It will create a repo, it will uh, build the code and create a artifact, keep it on the artifact repository with a build number, and then a trigger of an integration test is, if everything is fine, it releases that particular artifact. So that is CI process. Then comes the CD process. In the CD process, what happens? The artifact which was created, that artifact will now be deployed into a server so that people can use it, so the users can use it. For example, say amazon.com, the shopping site. So what happens there, those who are building it, they would have created the entire artifacts for the entire shopping site, and when they push it to the repository and the build happens and versioned, and finally the code is rolled out to different servers in the cloud, and after that is deployed, then people can see that particular website and use it. So it happens in this manner. And this continuous delivery pipeline is a part of the pipeline which deploys those artifacts into real servers for the users to test, users to use, and finally make use of that website. So when CD process completes, everything goes into production. And there are again various phases in the CD process. There could be test once it is deployed, whether it is working fine or not. There could be some regressions done, like whether something working previously is breaking down now. So things like that are taken care of in the CD. So in order to do that, we discussed last time that we use a server called Jenkins, and Jenkins can orchestrate this entire thing of pulling the code from the repository to deploying to production. So when you use open source tools, Jenkins is one of the best for CI/CD pipelines. And why we are learning Jenkins? Because when you learn Jenkins, it is simple to understand first these concepts of DevOps pipelines, and then you can apply it on AWS for your cloud native deployments. So first we need to do some practical on Jenkins to deploy it. And these were the various tools that are used to build the pipeline. Like you use Git for the code commits, you use AWS for creating your servers or VM instances. Inside that you use Docker. Then you can automate it using Ansible or Chef. And then there are various orchestrators, Kubernetes or ECS, which you can use to deploy those Docker containers, and then monitoring tools and so on. So various DevOps tools are there that cover this entire phase of deployments. Now we also touched upon this. We'll learn more about this in the following sessions, like how AWS does these processes. So I'm just putting this one on hold for now. Like once you understand Jenkins, then we can come up to this, like how code deploy, code commit, and code pipeline works. Okay, so and also we discussed a bit about Docker containers, how Docker containers quickly spin up and isolate resources, so you can build anything very quickly within seconds instead of having to build a virtual machine and then spend time on installing packages on it. So that was the background we had. Now today we will build a pipeline. and go into more depth of it. So from this slide onwards, we are officially like kicking off today's episode, you can say. So what is a pipeline? As I said, the pipeline will cover the set of steps that are needed to automate the process of release of any software, right from the time the planning is done, then the code is written and put into a repository, and then the integrations are done where CI, which I said, where the code is built or compiled, then tests are done and packaged and saved into a artifact repository. Then there are some test cases that run, and then if the test cases pass, it is released. If the test cases fails, it goes back to the code phase, so the developer will write the code again, and if it passes, it is released as a version, and then it is finally going to CD stage of the pipeline, where it is deployed and operated. And when it is operated, it means the software is live and people are monitoring that software and users are using it. So there is no way to go back, because it has already been deployed and is out in production. And if there is a need to go back, we already have this release artifact repository where you have previous versions. So if something is very wrong in the live environment, you can roll back. So I'll show you how this happens. So here, let's go back to uh, our hands-on. So we will try to do something and see for ourselves how it works. So in the previous session, we created a Jenkins server. So I have kept it running now, and we installed Jenkins, and we were logging into Jenkins. So after you log into Jenkins for the first time, it will ask you to create your own password. And once you do that, those of you have already tried this, very good. If not, then watch the previous and reach up to this stage. So you have a running Jenkins server where you can create a pipeline. But before creating a pipeline, let's just navigate this one a bit, and so that we just know what are the different things around here. So once you are logged in, you will see your name here and all that, and you will be the admin user, of course, because you are the only user of a newly set up Jenkins. And if you are in an organization where you already have a Jenkins server, then if you are a DevOps person who wants to create pipelines, modify things, then you have to create a user in Jenkins for with admin access. So for that, normally you can go to manage Jenkins, and then configure global security and manage users. These are the two places where you create users and provide them access rights. So here you can go, and then you can click on create user and start creating your username and password. So that way you can provide rights to other users also in Jenkins. So feel free to explore different things in Jenkins, what are the different settings and so on. But one thing you can remember, like when Jenkins is installed with all the default plugins, it is good to work in a production level, like you have everything that will work. So you don't have to do any tweaks here and there, but you are always free to explore everything, so that you know that when something goes wrong you can fix it, but out of the box it will work for you. Okay, so most of the settings, whatever changes, if you have to do anything, will be found here in the manage Jenkins. Rest, on the left panel you will see new item, which you can use to create jobs or pipelines. And when you are logging in for the first time, you also see this thing, welcome to Jenkins, and create a job, set up agent and cloud. But once you start creating jobs, you won't see this anymore. Okay, so you will be creating new jobs using this new item. Adding users and viewing different users is from here. Build history, this shows what pipelines have been already run and what you want to run. And open blue ocean is a very interesting part of Jenkins. I'll demonstrate you this one also. It allows you to visualize the pipeline, like, because here if you create a job, you cannot see actually what is happening in what stage you are in. So this is a plugin in Jenkins that allows you to visualize the pipeline, like now it is being built, now it is being tested, now it is being deployed. So or whatever is happening, you can see that in the screen. So that I'll show you in a while. So let's try creating a simple pipeline and see how it works. Once you have understood how it works, then we'll go on to the next stage, uh, where we will discuss how to script a pipeline. So that will be a level 200, as Ganesh said. Like, this will be a bit more difficult than what we discussed till now, but not very difficult. No need to get scared of anything, because you will have the scripts from me also, and you can reuse them for any project. Just change your parameters and you can reuse them. Okay, so when we are creating a simple pipeline, let's just try it. So you just created, let me show you again. You clicked on new item, and you name the item, say simple pipeline. And here you have many options: freestyle project, pipeline, this Bitbucket, team project, folder, GitHub, and so on. But normally when you are creating a simple pipeline, you can go with freestyle project, and when you are doing a scripted pipeline, you can go with pipeline. Rest of the things you would not need at this moment. These are for specific purposes. Like if someone is using Bitbucket, then he can use this. If someone is doing deployments at multiple environments together, he will use this, and so on. But once you know this and this, it can serve like 80 to 90% of whatever pipelines you are going to build. And special cases, by then you will understand the rest of the options also. So we are building a simple pipeline first. Name, click freestyle project, and here click on OK. So that will bring you to a configuration page. So here in the description you can write simple pipeline. Now let me tell you what this pipeline will do. It will not deploy anything. This is just for us to test like how a pipeline works. Okay, so using a simple pipeline, you can run any script, you can put things on cron or anything. Say someone asks you to run a particular job at particular time, so you can set a cron job using Jenkins. Say someone asks you to send a mail or send a mail campaign at a particular time or trigger a particular script, you can use a simple pipeline in those cases. Or if you want to do something on demand, for example, there is a server which has all Docker images, and every day you clear the Docker images, or there is a server where log files are filled up, or you want to clear them, or there is a S3 bucket which you want to archive every day into Glacier. So these kind of tasks which you want to which are needing some scripts to be run repeatedly, you can put those scripts inside a simple pipeline, and you can just click on that job and it will do that task. So just name whatever that job does, and here are various options. You can just read them and use them, like discard old builds. If something, a job has run once, you can clear it. And then there are various other options, like I'll tell you more about these when we do more complicated pipelines. Like say you want to pass some parameters into the pipeline. Say for example, I have a pipeline which clears our S3 buckets, and I want to pass the bucket name. So we can create some parameterized pipelines, and we can pass variables from outside into the script, and so on. But we are doing a simple pipeline now, so we'll not go into complicated ones. We'll go into complicated ones when we do the next one with scripted. Okay, so we are just simple pipeline. Source code management, no, we are not using any code also here. What we will do is, in the build step, we will select execute shell. So then it gives you a command window. So here you can write whatever commands you want to run. Say for example, as I was saying, you want to upload something on S3 or clear something from S3, you can write the AWS CLI command here. or say we just want to see the time, so we can write date linux command. So all the linux shell commands can be written here for whatever task you want to do. This is just an example, so I am just writing few commands: pwd, which folder I am on, or I want to echo something. This is a test pipeline, things like that. So whatever you write here will be executed by Jenkins when you execute this pipeline. So this is very useful because you can say you have a shell script which does something, or you have a Python script which does something. So you can add that here, and then you can execute it. For example, if I apply and save it, it creates a pipeline. If you go back to the dashboard, you will now see a simple pipeline has been created, but this pipeline has not been executed. Okay, so how will it look like when you execute it? Let's click on build. So here, when you click on build, here you see there is a job number 1 which is visible. So if you click here, you will see the console output, which means the commands that you ran has been executed on the server. So here you see date command was executed, and it shows the date and time. And I did a ls command. There was nothing inside this workspace, so it said there is no files there. And I ran a pwd command, which said the commands were being run in the working directory where live Jenkins workspace simple pipeline. So whenever you create a pipeline, it creates a workspace and checks the code inside it and runs everything there. Now let's do a real deployment. Like, let's deploy a small software application or a website and see how it works. And to do that, let's not use a simple pipeline, because this is something you can explore yourself. And let's go into the next level and try to deploy using a scripted pipeline. Before that, let me tell you something more. Now that you have come to simple and scripted pipelines, let me tell you about pipeline types. So we did simple pipeline just now. So simple pipeline is a general purpose pipeline for executing sequence of tasks. Like, if you have various tasks or scripts, you can just write that as a shell, or you can put it on a repository and point it to the simple pipeline task and execute it. So that is a simple pipeline. But when you are doing it for a production level or for your company's deployment of real applications, like last time someone asked me, like, will we try out pipelines using real applications? Yes, we'll do that. So how we'll do, say you some developers have written a website and you are asked to deploy that website into a server. When you are doing it manually, how do you do it? You will take that code from the developers. You will have a virtual machine on ec2. You will install, say it is a php website, then you will install apache. You will do a yum install apache, and then you will install php, yum install php. Then you will install all the libraries required for that php, all the dependencies. And then you will take the code and put it into the var www.html, and then you will start the apache server. So these are the steps you will do when you do it manually. So when you do that, someone has to manually go and run these commands, and then once that is over, he will say that, okay, I have deployed the website and it is visible on that server. But when we are using pipelines, we are not actually doing anything manually. We are doing manual work only once, when we are writing that pipeline or installing Jenkins and creating pipeline. But from the next day, the developer will have that Jenkins pipeline job. He will go and trigger it himself, so it becomes self-service. So that way, DevOps helps to make production deployments faster. Developer will click himself and deploy whenever he likes. If he doesn't want to click, we can also automate it and make it with a trigger, like when he commits something on the repository, it will trigger the pipeline. So their scripted pipeline comes in, which is written in a language called Groovy. Groovy is like similar, very similar to Java. You can say it's a kind of a Java language, but it is Groovy, independent DSL language, and it is with Groovy we write the scripted pipelines in Jenkins. Okay, most pipelines use Groovy for that. And scripted pipelines are what? Whatever we did in simple pipeline, it's same, but different stages are mentioned. So I will show you a scripted pipeline now, and you will see how it works, and we'll use it. And yes, you can follow, like this one is on the meetups also, and we will also share it on the YouTube channels and everywhere in the comments, so you can go here and check the different notes, and also the code is available here. For example, let's try a simple pipeline from this repository, Blue Ocean. Okay, so here there are when you write a scripted pipeline, how does it look like? How does that script look like? I'll first show you, and then I'll show you how to put it on Jenkins and use it. Okay, so just forget about whatever is here in the repository. This is just a simple repository which has a Java application, like hello world kind of a application, because it doesn't matter for a DevOps engineer like what application is. We just have to know what kind of stack is being used. Whenever you see a pom.xml, you know that okay, this is a Java project. When you see PHP files inside a project, then you know it's a PHP. When you see .js JavaScript files, then you know it is a Node.js kind of project. So having just get that idea, like since all of those who have been already working would be aware. So when you see the code, you should be able to know, like from the appearance, that what kind of project is it. So this looks like a Java project. So based on that, we model our uh, pipeline scripts. So we'll come to that again, so no worries. So now let's go and run a simple scripted pipeline, and then we will do this Java project. Okay, so how does a scripted pipeline looks like? So here you can go to this Jenkins file dry run. Why I call this dry run? Because this script is actually not doing anything. It is just executing all the steps and echoing it. It is not actually running the steps, so that we quickly know what it is. And then when we do the real one, then you will be able to see what actually is happening. And I'll also do a pipeline run for a Python project also. Okay, Python Flask. So there are one Java you will do, one Python you will do. So you'll get an idea of the pipelines, and then so that when we do the next episode, when we do the AWS code pipelines, it will be very easy for you. Okay, all right. So this is how a pipeline, a scripted pipeline looks like. And I said it is in Groovy. So how is it mentioned? It is very easy. If you think it is complicated, don't do so, because you will be getting this template. So those who are non-coders who moved into DevOps, or those who are new, might be thinking, I don't know any coding, I am a network guy, or I am a so don't worry about that. You don't have to code from scratch. This is a pipeline script template. You can just copy this one, and what you will do, I am telling you. So when this pipeline, you have to write a scripted pipeline. You begin with pipeline and a bracket, and inside it there are various things, like most important thing is stages. So here you will see pipeline, inside it stages, again bracket. So again inside stages there are steps, and inside the steps you write what you want to do in that stage. Okay, so as I said, like in a pipeline, in a longer pipeline, complete pipeline, what you have, you have a step where you pull the code from the repository. So that will be one step which we will do here. And then you have a step where you build the code. So if it is Java, you have some commands like maven or gradle build. So you use those commands there in that step. In the test stage, there are some commands to test it. So if you have a QA person in your team, he will tell you, okay, I test it using these commands. So you will put it on the pipelines here in the test phases. And then once the test is done, you will deploy it. So deploy commands will go here. So this is just a skeleton to make you understand how it works. So normally it has a pipeline stage, and under stages there are various stages which you can define, like build, test, performance test, or whatever, and deploy. So in the deploy stage it will actually deploy it somewhere. Okay, so that is how it is. And now in this pipeline, in the steps phase, what I am doing, I'm just echoing it. But in the real pipeline, you will here run the command to do that. So in the next example we'll do that, but first let's go through this pipeline and try this out. And what else is there in the script? In the second line you can see something called agent any. What does that mean? In Jenkins, here you can see build executors. So 1 and 2 are idle. What does that means? When a Jenkins server is running, it is waiting for jobs from different people, and these are known as build executors. Like, these are daemons that are waiting for jobs to come to them and they will execute it. So this Jenkins has two build executors. That means if two people are running two different jobs in this Jenkins, this is a multi-user platform. So if two people are running, these both will become busy. And if a third person starts running a pipeline, then that person will have to wait until these two jobs are complete. So in big organizations who use Jenkins, like say there are 100 developers or 1,000 developers, so you cannot have a single Jenkins with two executors. Say 40 of them are building jobs, so only two are able to build it, rest 38 are waiting for their turn, so wasting time. So what happens in those cases, we use Jenkins slaves. Like, you can add more Jenkins into this first Jenkins that you build, and then your executor will show it here. So that is a next level thing. I'll conduct a session sometime. Me and Ganesh will do that. So how to add Jenkins slaves and so on. But just for you to know, so when you add a new slave, and that slave will show up with a new name, like here it is showing idle and master, because this is just one server. Then it will show slave 1 idle, slave 2 idle, and so on. That means there you can define. So going back to the script, here I am saying agent is any, so anywhere you can run, but here you can define like slave 1 or slave 2 or slave 3, whatever. Why this is useful? Because sometimes people want to keep their like, I am a company, I have my Android team, I have my PHP team, I have Java team. Different teams are there for different applications, and I have different Jenkins also. Like, say I have server 1 which is building Android, server 2 is building for PHP. So there I can mention, like, say I am writing this script for a Java build, so I can mention slave 1 Jenkins should be used for Java. So all the jobs for Java will go to slave 1 of Jenkins. That thing you can define here. But if you don't know what to do, just write any, so that job will go anywhere to any Jenkins that you have. So that is why I have put any, because we have only one server. Now stages, here you mention the stage name, and then you write steps, and inside steps whatever you write is nothing but the Linux command that you are running. Like, say you want to build, you want to do maven build, you will write here. You want to do a git pull, you can write git pull here, and so on. And once you have the file in the repository, then that file can be used to build it. So how do we do that? Let's go back here. So we click on new item, and let's create a name. So what name we will give? Scripted pipeline and we are just doing a dry run, so I name it dry run. So this is the name of our project. Normally in companies, when you do that, it will be your project name or the service name. For example, you have a user identity service or you have a payment gateway service, so they will write payment gateway prod or payment gateway dev, whatever environment. And so you can have a nomenclature like that. And I am not going to choose freestyle project anymore because I am writing a scripted pipeline. So this time I'll use pipeline. Okay. So here, what I am going to do, again, description you can write scripted pipeline dry run. Here I'll explain a bit of things to do. Discard old builds. This is a good practice to tick. Why? Because if you keep old builds, like every time you build, I told you in Jenkins, every time you build a job, there is a workspace that is created for that job and it will save it. So if you don't discard your old build, say you have 100 times you are building this job and 100 workspaces are created with all this code that you have checked out. So one day your Jenkins space will fill up. So you don't need old builds. Only you can keep few builds just to see what happened in the previous build and so on. So here you can do that kind of rotation of your logs and builds. So you can mention how many days you want to keep the builds. I normally don't do this because maybe you got a long holiday, so everything got wiped out after that. So not a good practice. You can use max number of builds, this option. Say I want to always keep 5 builds as a history, rest you can delete, because deleting builds doesn't mean deleting that software, because in Jenkins it is just the build process and the logs. But once the build is done, that artifact is gone to another repository and deployed to production if it passes the test case and so on. So this is just the build logs and build applications and codes that is kept inside the Jenkins when the build was happening. This is not required. This is only required when something goes wrong. You can go and revisit the old build, why it failed and things like that. So if keeping 5 old builds is sufficient. And then do not allow concurrent builds. This is also some people can take based on their applications, which means if you are running this job and someone else is also clicking this job, it should not trigger off a race condition, like it should not build twice. So if you do not allow, then it will first complete your build, then it will trigger his build, so that nothing gets jumbled up. So these kind of things are here. So in this section mostly you will need these two at this stage. And as I said, if you want to make the build automated, like commit code and build will start, so then you can click here to trigger build automatically, or you can tick here to do a poll SCM. Poll SCM means it will polling means to constantly keep checking. Okay, so SCM is source code management. So say your code is in GitHub, like my code is here in GitHub. So if you do this option and mention which is your repository, then it will poll the source code management. Like say every 5 minutes it will go to, if I schedule it here just like a cron job, like /5 star 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 star, which means it will check every 5 minutes and see if there is any change in this repository. There is no change. Last change was 14 days ago, so nothing will happen. If someone makes a change here, then Jenkins will automatically know, because it will keep checking every 5 minutes and it will trigger the job. Okay, so we are not doing that now. We are manually going to trigger it. And then comes this stage, pipeline. This is the most important. Here you either can write the script here itself, that script which we were checking, this one. So you can copy this one and write it here. but not a good practice. Why? Because if the Jenkins server dies, something went wrong, Jenkins went down, so you lose everything. So don't do that. Use this pipeline script from SCM. So source code management, that means we have a repository here in GitHub or Bitbucket or wherever you have your repository, and that repository has a link. So you copy that link, and in the Jenkins you mention that I am going to take the script from SCM, and my SCM is Git. Most of the SCMs like Bitbucket and GitHub are all Git SCMs. So put the path that you copied for your repository. If it has any credentials, you can add, but I have kept it public, so I don't have credentials, so it will be able to check out. But when you are doing it on your company internal account, it will have username password. You have to put it here by adding. And once this stage is done, put the branch name. Again, here we are on the master branch. Here it's master by default, and here you have to name the name of the script. So we are going to use this file first. So we are going to use Jenkins file dry run. So I copied it and I put this one, apply, save. So here we have a dry run script. So if I build it, what will happen? You can see here it is trying to build the stages. So all the stages are happening, and if you go here, you can see these stages are being written out here. So first is checked out the code, it built the code, it tested it and did the integration tests, and it is doing the performance testing, and then it will deploy. But this is not actually happening, because I told you, we in the script we did not actually write the commands, we just wrote eco building. That means it is just symbolic that it is building it. But so this one will take some time and get deployed. So this is how a pipeline looks like, but this is just a demo pipeline, so it was not actually doing it but demonstrating what it does. But if we want to actually deploy a Java application, how to do that? Let's quickly do that. So for that is this file, Jenkins file. If you look at this file, you can see some more information. Like, it is the same template, pipeline, agent, any stages and different stages. But here you can see inside the steps, I have put some commands. So in the build stage, what it is doing, it is taking some shell script and running it, and putting some permissions to the shell script and executing that shell script. Similarly, on testing, it is running a shell script that is testing it, and then in the deployment, it is running a shell script that is deploying it. So what are those scripts all about? Let's check here. uh, what is the path of the script? The script is inside Jenkins folder build.sh. Okay, so if you go inside Jenkins folder build.sh, you will be able to see this script. So this script is doing what? It is doing a git clean, because it is checking out from the repository and cleaning all the git files, and then it is setting the environment, like env will take the environment variables, and mvn, as I told you, this is a Java build, so mvn clean package will build the Java uh, artifact. So similarly, if you are doing any other language, the developer will give you what is the build command. So that you will put in this script and you can get going. Similarly, when you are deploying, what are the steps that is happening, that will go here. When you are testing, whatever steps is happening, that will go here. So spend some time on this to see what steps are being done in order to run this. So this time we are going to create a job with this Jenkins file and for the same repository. Okay, so I am again copying it. So let's create another pipeline that will build this Java. So, and this time we will also see it in open blue ocean, so that you will be able to understand how it works and how the pipeline looks like. Sorry, here we will write scripted say Java pipeline and choose pipeline. Okay, scripted Java pipeline and discard old builds again. As I said, 5. Do not allow concurrent builds. Pipeline script from SCM. See, once you do that, next time it becomes easier for you to do. Choose Git again. Same repository. And this time we will use Jenkins file instead of Jenkins file driver. So apply and save. So if someone triggers it, this will trigger a real pipeline to build the Jenkins job. Okay. And while the build is happening, you can go to OpenBlueOcean and see how it looks like. This will give you an idea of how a pipeline actually looks when the deployment is happening. See, all the old pipelines are there, and this is the pipeline which we are running now. So here you can see the state, like it has started, it built, and what commands were running you during that phase. That will also, like this script was running, now the test phase is running, and what are the details there, what commands were running, the test cases have passed and the build has succeeded, and what was the artifact where the build was run, and so on. So all these are displayed here when you are doing a scripted pipeline. And using this log also you can troubleshoot. Sometimes these fail, it doesn't always pass like this. Sometimes you will see this is a build failure. Then what happens, you have to check the logs and see what went wrong and what was the issue, and you have to escalate it to the developer, like your build is failing, say he has written something wrong in the code and the code is not compiling, then here it will fail in a certain stage. Okay, so this one has passed and finally it has been deployed. So if we go back to the repository, so this here also I have written the steps, like how to do this and different notes, so you can follow that. Okay, and now let's the last thing we'll try now about Jenkins pipelines is we'll try another pipeline with uh, Python, so that you just get an idea of that too. So this is a simple web app of Python, app.py. This you can see, and you know that this is a Python Flask app. And again, there is a Jenkins file I have written here, same template, but now I have put the commands related to Python, and I have containerized that Python so that it becomes a Docker with all the libraries needed, and it deploys. So when you get time, go through this app, watch what is there inside the Docker file, how I containerize into a Python. So I am taking all the code from the app directory and putting it, and how I installed the Python inside the Docker file, so that you can see here. So this is the code, and outside wherever like this web contains all the code of Python and the Docker file, and outside just create a Jenkins file like this and use this repository URL, go to your Jenkins and just go back by clicking here. You can go back to your Jenkins. Okay, and new item. So now what we are going to do, Python pipeline, and this is a Python Flask app. So again I select pipeline. Rest of the steps will be same because only your script has changed. and this one again you keep it at 5. And this time I'm going to put the repository URL for the Python Flask app CI/CD. Apply it, save it, and when you deploy it, you will see that this Python application is getting built. See, it is building the Docker image. Test phase is done, and if you look at Blue Ocean, you will see it more neatly, but here also you can check in the logs. It's the same thing. Now it is trying to run the Docker application and it's up. So it has successfully deployed the Python pipeline. So can I see that website that was built? Yes, you can see that it was deployed on the same server on 5000 port according to that logs. So if I go to 5000, I should be able to see it. But it is not visible now. What could be the reason? That is because maybe 5000 port is not allowed in our security group. So let's go and check there. We have this Jenkins security group. It is always good to encounter some errors so that you learn how to troubleshoot in the real time. So here you can see 80, 80, 80, these are open. Last time we did this one for monitoring using net data, and 5000 we can open because this Python app is listening on 5000. So I just mentioned that this is Python app, and we allow it for now. I am allowing it for everyone, and that's it. Now it should be able to view. So that Flask app that we deployed is deployed on the cloud. That means in this EC2 instance. So that is about how you build pipelines in Jenkins and different languages and repos. But this is just a demonstration, so very fast I had gone through it. But you have to spend some time on this, and there are even more of these demos. I keep putting these demos in here and there. You can explore. You will get more here, and then we can use this for our upcoming session when we do orchestrators and all that. But before I end, I'll give you a bit of overview of what is coming in these two slides, so that we will be prepared for doing that on ECS and using AWS code pipelines in the upcoming session. So what are orchestrators? Right now what we did, we created a Python website and we put it inside Docker and we ran it on the Jenkins server itself. But in production that won't happen that way. In production what will happen, there would be some production servers or clusters which are running these Docker containers. Now who will take care of each and every Docker container, whether it is getting more traffic, so you have to scale up. If there is less traffic, you have to scale down. So these things, who will take care? It is not possible for one person or a system admin to take care of that, because he has to do everything manually. So in a DevOps way, we use orchestrators to manage Docker containers. Okay. So there are many types of orchestrators. The most famous one now is Kubernetes in the open source. There is Mesos Marathon also, but in AWS Cloud Native, what we use is ECS or EKS. If you are wanting to use Kubernetes, use EKS, but ECS is also very powerful and easy to manage. So we will cover ECS in the coming session. So what ECS does, once the CD pipeline tells ECS that my Docker is ready, deploy it. So ECS will take that Docker container and deploy it. It will scale up and do all sorts of things. So we will be doing that using CloudFormation in the upcoming session. So that is about orchestrators. Now how ECS works? ECS, what it does, the pipeline creates a Docker container and puts it in a place called Docker registry. Registry is like a library where Docker is kept, and then it starts a container service there, and then Once the container service is started, it listens on a port, and we create some route 53 rules, so that say you write www.xyz.com, that goes to your ECS container service, and your website is visible. And it also has some rules which you can set for scaling up your containers when there is high traffic or high load, scaling down when the load has subsided, and so on. And to do that, ECS also has various backends, like you can use Fargate, where you don't have to manage anything. AWS does it for you. You can put it on different regions, you can do multi-region failover things. And you can also use edge computing stuff like outposts. And you can also do ECS on premise, like say you have your own data center, half of your thing is on the cloud, half is in your data center. So you can manage that thing too using ECS. Like you can manage your local data center deployments as well as deployments on the cloud. So we'll do more about that in the third episode, where we also do infrastructure and service, and about how AWS tools like code commit, code build, and code pipeline are used to deploy to ECS. So that is all for today's session. Over to Ganesh to continue with the rest.
I'm here. Thank you, Prasanjit Singh. It was a good session. So, guys, if you have any questions, you can straightforwardly post your questions in the chat. But we have to go with the quiz now. Once we have done the quiz, you can the answers will be given one by one. Okay. So let me start with the quiz. So I'm sharing my screen, so you can directly open this barcode. Either you can use your mobile, or you can directly go with the link slide.com and enter the ID AWS UG Malta. Once you are in, you are able to open the page. So let me go here, activate here. Okay, so once everyone is joined the quiz, I will start opening the questions. You can join as fast as you can, please. For each question, we have a timeline, so you need to answer as fast as you can. So once you have answered everything, so the leaderboard will be displayed automatically on the screen. I'll be waiting for another 1 minute, so then I'll start the quiz. If you miss, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to start now. One, two, three, four. Okay, I think we are done, and congratulations, Mr. Anil. So you can share your email ID with me. You can personally ping me via AWS meetup. So I'm here. Otherwise, you can contact me from LinkedIn, or you can message your email ID in the chat. We'll be getting back to you with the credit of AWS, so you can use for a testing, for a lab, or if you would like to learn anything from AWS, you can use this credit coupon, and you need to apply the coupon code on the AWS billing account. So we will share you the instructions. You don't have to worry about that. You can share your email ID in the chat. If you have any privacy concerns, you just message me from the meetup channel. Okay. So now we are getting back to the Q&A. So guys, prepare ready with your questions, and we will start with the Q&A with Prasanjit Singh. Closing now. Hey, we are here now.
Hi.
Prasanjit Singh and me is here. So we have a first question from Shiva. You
Yeah,
can.
Shiva is a very good question actually. What are the differences between scripted and declarative pipelines? This is a like those who have already used, they will understand this. But let me define it very simply. So first we did a simple pipeline that was out of the box, which is coming from Jenkins, no scripting there. Second, what I said is scripted, where you are writing some scripts, but then again in the scripted there can be two types, like one is called scripted pipeline and one is declarative. So whenever you see a pipeline which starts from like with the word pipeline like we did, so that is actually a declarative pipeline. It is a script where you are declaring that what are the stages will be, and inside the stages you will declare what the commands will be. So that is a declarative style. And in scripted it normally starts with node, like it's same, the template is same. Some pipe Jenkins file you will see it starts with a name node, and then the node name, where actually in the declarative we are writing agent and agent name. As I said, in Jenkins you can have slave. So similarly in scripted you start with a node value. Now which is the best one? Declarative is the newer one. So scripted is becoming obsolete nowadays. So whatever we are saying, scripted pipelines is a declarative one, because it allows you to define the steps. So you can stop one step. Say for example, some test case is failing and you don't want to have a test case anymore, so you can just comment out that stage. It will still build and deploy without a test. Sometimes you need to bypass the test, things like that. So declarative, and also allows declarative allows you to deploy multi environment. Like in the stage you can define deploy to dev or test environment or staging environment. So that is it about it. Any other questions we are having? I think that is all I can see. Okay, how many ways we can? Okay, we have a question from Anil. How
Anil, I
many
think he is the
ways?
winner of the quiz.
Yes, congrats, Anil. And how many ways we can trigger our jobs? There can be many ways. Like one is you can trigger based on poll SCM, as I said, based like just like a cron job, you can trigger it time based. Then you can trigger on based on SCM commit. Like there are certain things called web hooks which you can create on GitHub or any repository you're using and connect it to Jenkins. Like in Jenkins there is option of webhook. So where when you select that option and create a webhook with GitHub, then anyone commits anything on GitHub will automatically create a like build the job. It will trigger the job. So that is another way of doing it. And when you are not sure of your like how to create a webhook or anything, you can just remove it using like you don't have to uh, do that. You can just do it using cron. Okay, and you can also, yeah, using post APIs also you can do, like in Jenkins, but it you have to be very sure about the safety in that case, security, because in Jenkins it also exposes some APIs, REST APIs, so you can create your curl command or something like that in a script, or you can write a Python script that can trigger your API in the Jenkins to trigger a job instead. So that can be done, but in that case, there you have to be careful of the security, because from external sources it can trigger. So there should be some kind of a authorization mechanism, and course should be enabled, because from another site you are triggering. So there one has to be careful when triggering through a post request. So in these cases, we use cloud native things, which we are going to do. Like instead of using Jenkins, when it becomes more complicated, we use AWS to do that. Because in open source, there might be loopholes where it can be exploited. All
Okay.
right. So I
Okay,
think,
so guys, so we will wait for another 2 minutes. So you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, so now, okay, thank you very much, everyone. So I think everybody is clear with the session of DevOps episode 2 on AWS User Group Malta. I'm thankful to everyone who are joining today. And we have the next episode, which is coming up in a couple of days later. So that will be
Saturday, yeah.
posted in AWS Meetup group. So you can join from there, or we have the link directly on the YouTube, so you can directly have the a reminder from the YouTube directly. So that's it. And thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day, and thank you, Prasanjit Singh again. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks a
Happy
lot.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.